Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hi everyone, welcome to Willow Healing, and today I have the very beautiful Tanya Savva with us, who has many different roles that she plays when she's on her healing journey as an intuitive healer. So not only is she a meditation teacher and a yoga teacher, she's a rebirthing breathwork practitioner, an emotional freedom practitioner, and she's also a writer. She's passionate about supporting people to heal from unconscious limitations and to encourage nervous system regulation, to cultivate inner freedom and joy through emotional embodiment, inner awareness, and foster community. So welcome, Tanya. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So I guess let's just dive in. So for a lot of people, I feel they would know what yoga and meditation is, but not everyone would know what breath work is. So do you want to explain a little bit to everyone what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. Breathwork is probably one of my favorite, if I can have favorites of healing modalities. It's definitely my favorite healing modality to facilitate and hold space for, and has played a massive role for me on my healing journey over the last sort of 9 to 10 years. There are so many different ways that you can use the breath for the sake of healing. And, if we think about yoga as a practice, and one of the fundamental practices within the yoga practice is pranayama, and pranayama is the use of the breath to create specific changes within the energy body. Breath work as we know it today, more in the modern world, in the Western world, has come in leaps and bounds and is a way more accessible tool for people to use, both at home, one-on-one with a practitioner, and or in group sessions as well. And the style of breathwork that I chose to study and to facilitate is rebirthing breathwork. And it's a style of breathwork that I find is a little bit softer and has kind of the qualities of a bit more feminine essence. I find some other styles of breathwork can be quite harsh and a little bit kind of aggressive. For me personally, other people love those styles of breathwork. But rebirthing breathwork is simply conscious connected breathing in and out of the nose. And so you simply are breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. And that rhythm happens with no pauses at the top and the bottom of the breath. And it becomes like a circle. There's no beginning and no end to the breath. And the intention is to continue that rhythm of breath, usually for around 60 minutes. Sometimes it's a bit less, sometimes it's longer, depending on the journey that you're going through in your own practice. And through that use of that particular rhythm and style of the breath in and out of the nose in a circular rhythm, some really powerful, big, magical, crazy, ethereal, physical, cognitive, conscious, everything you can think of can happen. And there's a lot of science and a lot of research now that's happening to understand what is actually happening when we're breathing in this way, and why do these kind of mysterious and mystical and ethereal and magical things happen, and how is it that we tap into altered states of consciousness through that rhythm of breath. So that's really exciting to see that sort of modern science is able to
catch up,
and create an understanding of, because we like to know why and how. I personally haven't gone too much down the rabbit hole of understanding why and how, because I lack the mystery of it. It's like there are some things I don't want to know the answers to,
And I feel it's something that until you actually do it and experience it, you can't understand it. So
No.
I've done some sessions with you, the rebirthing, and both of my experiences were incredibly different, but they were all something that you would never expect going into it. And it's all, like you said, just breathing and getting into that cycle of breathing and catching your breath before it comes back on. And then you just, it's like you go down the rabbit hole of Alice in Wonderland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so healing, and it's what you need at that time. And then the weeks that follow, there's these massive shifts in your life, because obviously you've tapped into your subconscious, and all of a sudden this magic starts to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for some people, if you're not already in some capacity touched into that, and you're jumping into a big breath work session like that for the first time, you're not necessarily aware that the magic is unfolding for weeks after. And actually sometimes it can feel quite hard and difficult, and like life is difficult and shitty things are happening. But when you've got your heart and your awareness open enough to be curious, like, oh, there's this thing that keeps showing up for me since I did that breath work, I wonder why. That's when you can start to really understand that it's not just in the breathwork session that good stuff happens. It can be days and weeks, sometimes months afterwards, that there can be major change, because we are literally tapping in, as you said, to the subconscious, the part of the brain that we cannot access while we're awake and thinking and planning and doing. And you and I are sitting here talking right now. We can't just tap into the more primitive parts of our brain, which hold stored information deeply related to our emotional landscape, to our childhood as well. And also beyond that, for anyone that's curious or out there listening that wonders, but what about before childhood? What about in utero? Or what about at birth? Or even before that, if you want to go to past life? I've had some pretty profound, incredibly profound and life-changing experiences where I've tapped into states of consciousness in lifetimes that are not in this body and in this form. And they all just create like a little piece of my life's puzzle. And I just like to keep my heart open and my mind open and curious to what that particular vision or message or life path or story might be. And I like to just imagine my life as this, you think of a 1,000-piece puzzle. I'm sure there's way more pieces than that than in my life, but just like one little piece here and one little piece there, and the picture just kind of gets
and you're kind of like a 3D puzzle, because you do one layer and then you've got to start the next bit.
That's right. It's multidimensional.
And
absolutely.
And I think as well, like, people don't realize how much we store in our subconscious, and that feeling of actually safety, which I know is something you're really passionate about, which is that needing to feel safe in order for healing to occur. And especially like somatically, because I've done a lot of work with practitioners as well, with like polyvagal theory and things like that, and shifting those emotions, and and so much of what we hold underneath what we think, we think we're okay, and then something will trigger us, and then we go into this spiral. We think, but I was okay, and then this one tiny thing happened, like someone left their shoes at the front door, and that was enough to send me on an angry spiral, and not realizing how much of that subconscious program's there.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we know now that we are operating in who we are right now in this conversation in our daily lives. What we're doing, thinking, how we're behaving, acting, responding, reacting to everything in our environment is actually being driven. 85 to 95% of that is being driven by our unconscious patterns and imprints. And so until you start to use tools to tap into that information and start to understand and see why those imprints are there and what they're trying to do to protect us, or to open our heart and our minds to the world in a way that allows us to live more freely and more peacefully and more safely, we're going to get triggered. And there's been many times in my beautiful life where I've had some pretty juicy ones, and I'd like to say that I have kind of finished that canvas, and I know now, but there's always something waiting around the corner.
And I get told it's like, hey, you thought you cleared this, but there's still some cobwebs you need to shift as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally had an experience yesterday. I've had a big journey the last couple of weeks with some of my own, not only in the subconscious memory, but cellular memory in the body. This problem with my lung, my right lung. I had a lung collapse when I was 20 years old. Just decided it didn't want to be working anymore, and it collapsed. Fast forward 20 years. Literally yesterday, I was having a session where I had cleared a lot of grief that I'd held in that part of my body, and I've cleared away, like you said, that top layer of the grief. But there is more layers to go into before it's completely healed and completely gone. And I'm not sure what they are yet. And I don't even want to go looking for them, because I know that I'm at a point in my healing journey, personally as well as professionally, where I just know my body will release that and bring it up into my awareness when I'm ready for it. And so, it's nice to just carry on and go, okay, good. It's great that that's there. I know that it's there to look at. I don't need to look at it, because my body will just be like, now's the time for you to look at it, and it will bring it up.
Yeah, and it's about being that comfortable with yourself that you can sit with those emotions and know that, that there's power in actually just sitting and being, being confused, or being like in grief, or being angry. And I feel that that's something that's really missing from today's culture, that we've been taught so much to suppress those emotions rather than letting them out. And then, growing up, we got, girls cry and all those kind of stereotype things, and, you can't say what you're really thinking. That's rude, and then you think, well, no, it's not. And then all of a sudden you turn up, like, there's that nice girl syndrome, and there's all these things that come from that. Whereas really it's hurting our bodies. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand too.
Literally hurting our bodies. Yeah. I was on a retreat last week. I was hosting a retreat, and I walked off the aeroplane, and I literally had physical pain in my chest, and I was like, oh, it's interesting. And over the course of that first day, just like arriving, setting up, this pain in my chest it became so excruciating. It literally felt like I had a boulder just crushing down on my right shoulder and onto my right ribs. And it was literally manifesting as physical pain in my body. And then, just coming back to talking about being comfortable with our emotions, I knew it was something to do with sadness and grief, because under that philosophy of traditional Chinese medicine, the emotions related to the organ of the lung is sadness and grief. And I was like, oh, that's cool. We'll just see what that's going to be about. And then I was just sitting there at breakfast with my guests and ended up bawling my eyes out, sharing this old story that's like a 15-year-old story. And I was like, oh, that's what the grief is. And it was that layering on top of that grief was frustration. And I'd just been so focused on the frustration for 15 years that I hadn't removed that lid to get down deep enough to realize that actually I was really sad. And it was like 15 years of holding that grief and not having the time, space, capacity to be able to look at it. It then decided on my retreat to come out, and I just had to sit there. I sat there at breakfast with 4 of my guests just listening to me, like just crying my eyes out. But I'm just so comfortable with myself in that way. I'm like, oh, it's better out than in. And I cleared it and I walked away. And then throughout the rest of that day, this pain just started to settle, because 1, I'd acknowledged it. 2, I had spoken about it, let other people receive it. I had no shame or judgment on myself for that. I just let it come through. And then it's mostly gone. Mostly.
It's like, there's still a niggle. Is there more?
Right here in front of my chest.
I had this happen to me at the end of last year. So I had this niggling pain in my big left toe, which is to do with like finances and managing and getting support. Anyway, and I was ignoring it, and then I was walking outside, and this massive splinter went through my shoe and poked me in the toe and like stabbed in. And I was like, still didn't pay attention at this point. And I was like, wow, that's really crazy that happened. And, you know, this is what I teach people to look for signs and symbols. And then I'm at Kmart trying to buy some shelving because I was feng shuiing my space where I do healing work. And I had the shelves on this cart and it slipped and it landed on my toe and it broke it.
Oh my goodness.
And I was in the middle of Kmart just going, do not pass out, do not pass out, do not pass out. We can do some healing. We just got to get out of here. And I hobbled up to the checkout and I bought the shelves and then I got into the car and I'm like, and then I just let out this howl and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I looked at my toe and I'm like, that is broken no matter what kind of healing I can do right now.
No.
But then at that moment I went, oh my goodness, I have not been paying attention. And then when I started to pull it and then I asked a friend for support, which I find is always important, you know, having that team that you can go to. And I'm like, can you look into it? This is what I'm getting, but I know I'm missing something. And then she's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh. And then once I sat in that, it healed so quickly because I did other things with it as well. But it was just, I had to acknowledge it and let it go. And I had to sit in that somatic experience and let those emotions come through and not ignore the fact that my toe was hurting.
So beautiful. There's so many amazing messages in that. You know, just one, that you're human.
Yeah.
And even though you're an incredible healer yourself, you missed the signs.
Yes.
You know, you didn't notice the big freaking splinter in your toe, right?
Yep.
But also just knowing that, I mean, for me, as a somatic worker as well, it's like any time something physical is happening in my body, I'm like, oh, what's happening in my life right now? It's like, I'm not going for drugs, I'm not going for band-aids. I'm like, all right, what emotional thing is tripping my body up? Because our bodies are so wise and so designed to feel incredible that anytime something is not optimally functioning, the first question I'm looking at and the first thing I'm looking at is what's happening in my life that could be causing dysfunction in my body. And the fact that your toe healed so quickly indicates that it actually was an emotional issue and not a physical problem. And of course, you know, we could say, of course it's a physical problem because it's literally a physical injury, but that physical injury happened to shine a little light on somewhere within you that needed that support, you know, or to look at whatever it was. And I love that. It's pretty powerful.
Exactly. And I always say to people, you know, the universe leaves us little breadcrumbs and signs, but if we keep ignoring them, they'll just keep making it bigger and bigger until literally a shelf falls on your toe.
You broke your toe.
You know, and even I've had like, you know, I was trying to make a decision and I was like, oh, you know, like at this crossroads, and then a duck flew in front of my car. And then all of a sudden I was like, was that a duck? And this whole flock of ducks was just stopped in front of my car. And I was like, okay, I really need to look up the meaning of ducks.
Yeah.
And then just in case I hadn't got the message, a duck basically flew into my windscreen and flew off again. And I was like, okay, there's something with ducks. And it was about making a choice. It was like, you need to make a choice. You can't keep hemming like one things from the other. So this is what I tell people, like, if you start to look at these signs and these things, and even our body is the biggest sign. Like you were saying, there's like so many layers and emotional things underneath it. And often people go to me, you know, oh, I've got a sore neck. I'm like, okay, well, your head's not matching your heart. And they're like, what? You know, oh no, I just slept wrong. Did you?
Yeah. And you get to see, you know, I know for me, I literally stepped off the aeroplane. And as I was walking into the airport off the tarmac, I just got this pain in the back of my shoulder, and it was instant and acute. And I had not done anything to injure it. So I know it was not a physical injury. I knew straight away, oh, that's an interesting feeling I've got in the back of my shoulder there. And then it radiated into my chest and down my lung. And so I was like, okay, I was just present to it. But okay, there's something here for me to see this week. And And I saw it, and I'm so glad I did, because the same thing within a few days. It's feeling incredible, and I've had incredible support. I reach out to all my healers, and so nice to hear you as well, that you're a healer yourself and you work in that plane. But there are some things that we're not supposed to do by ourselves.
Correct.
Actually, we're not supposed to do any of it by ourselves. Yep. And so it does sometimes get up to the point where, for me as well, if I can't get to the root cause of what's happening at a physical level, an emotional level, psychosomatic, whatever it is, it's because I'm not supposed to do it alone. And so at that point, when I've done the meditation, I've done the EFT, I've done the breath work, and I still don't have the answer, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you've got to call something such and such. And then I ring a particular person that helps me, and then they figure it out. And I'm like, great, thanks, bye.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I teach people is to have that support ready to go, because when you're in a crisis or when you're in that point of pain, your logic is really tricky to tap into. And if you just have that intuitive hit and you go, oh, someone's name just pops in your head, then you know that you can call them because they've supported you before. Whereas if you try and do all this work when you're in that crisis state, it's really hard to find all those things. It's good to put it in when it's like, calm and explore and go, okay, I feel safe with this person, versus, oh, I'm in a crisis now and maybe I can call this person, but I don't know. And then you just go into that spiral as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it feeds the beast of feeling unsupported, of not having community, of I'm alone. And I love that. It's a beautiful idea to be creating that community support, even when you're feeling good. You know, just a little top up, a little energetic love, little Reiki healing session or whatever it might be. Just building up that network around you so that when the proverbial shit does hit the fan, you're ready to go and you've got a phone number to call,
That's it. And it's just like, it's so important. And we're all connected in some way or another. We have this energy connection with people, which a lot of us don't realize how connected we are, that we, and often we can feel what's going on around us and not realize it's even happening. So so it's really beautiful if you have that support community ready to go. And, sometimes following your curiosity ends up with a new profession.
Oh, it's literally my life.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got this problem, and then I meet that healer, and then I go, oh, I want to learn how to do that. And all of a sudden I've learnt that thing, and then all of a sudden I've found someone else, and I've loved that modality, and I've gone down that path, and now I've just got all these professions. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Or you're like listening.
But actually, it was all for me.
Yeah, but then you're listening to a podcast, and you're like, huh, I could do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing, and so fortunate that we live in a time where it's all available to us.
So it's so much easier, like I would start getting, when I started working with people, I'd get all these hit for herbs. Like I just kept coming through and I'm like, I have no idea what these herbs even do. I just hear the words or see the plant or, and I'm like, oh, maybe I really need to go study herbology. And then sure enough, up comes this course, and it's like everything I wanted and online. And I'm like, thank you, divine, for putting that in there. And that's, again, that little breadcrumbs, like following that path and what brings you joy so that you can find and tap into your true soul essence, right?
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely.
So if anyone knows Tanya, her story was she was doing a breathwork session and then had an epiphany and then changed her life, essentially, right?
Yeah, literally. It was June 2015. I was a couple of months into doing my yoga teacher training. I had one of the girls was like, come along to this breathwork thing. And I was like, okay. And there was a guy on the stage who was talking about how him and his wife wanted to just get out of the rat race and get rid of everything they owned. They had a mortgage and all of their beautiful cars and they're, just mortgaged, to their eyeballs. And they were like, this is not the way that we want to be living our life. And so him and his wife had shared on stage the story of how they had a goal of living rent-free for a year. So they sold everything they owned bought a van, decked it out, and then travelled. And then, I did my breathwork session, and I came out of that and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I did. It took a little bit more planning. I'm a single mum and I have a child with a disability. But I just spent the next, 8 or 9 months just looking at how I could make that work. And I did. I travelled for nearly 6 months with my daughter up the east coast of Australia. I wrote a children's book about it. And I came home, had finished my yoga teacher training, and then that was the very sort of the pivotal point of me then going down this completely different path. Not completely different. I was working as an occupational therapist, so I've been in the health industry my whole career, just in a different way.
I'm laughing because I still am a speech pathologist.
Yeah. So it's like we're in
Healing.
The world of health, and I guess in a way when you're coming out of school, it makes sense because of the Western models of medicine, but unless you're already tied into more of a spiritual community, that we're naturally drawn into some form of health and healing and those sorts of modalities. And so I was an OT, worked with people who had severe, like catastrophic injuries, brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, high-level amputations. And I just burnt out, and I was being a therapist to my child as well. And so that yoga teacher training and the road trip completely pivoted. My life just pivoted in that moment. Met some incredible people. I came back. I tried to go back into my OT role. I did that for 2 months, and I was like, I'm out, and I haven't been back ever since.
Yeah.
So that was 2017, I think.
And how beautiful and trusting of you to trust that flow and just to follow that intuition, right? And just to see what happened, and knowing that, well, kind of spirit had your back, right? Like the fact that you could get to that point and do it.
Yeah. And, there was a lot of what felt like sacrifice. I let go of a really good income and a lot of financial freedom. I couldn't afford to have my own home, so I was living in my parents' home, sharing a double bed with my daughter for 4 years, and then another 4 years after my road trip. But all of that served a really incredible purpose for my personal growth, spiritual growth, understanding ancestral and generational trauma. Spending time with your parents was a great way to figure out who you are and who you don't want to be. Or how you want to be different.
And how you can see that those patterns and go, no, they're stopping with me, thank you. And I feel like,
for sure.
As a parent too, something so powerful that I learned very early on in my spiritual journey was when we heal things in us, it heals it for our child as well, and all the future generations too. And I find that so empowering as a parent to know not only are we healing all the past trauma, but everything to come, and stop saying this stops with me. This is the end of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So definitely felt like spirit had my back. At times that was questionable. But in hindsight, I've never had any reason to doubt, ever, actually. Like, I've always been supported. I've always had what I've needed. Like, something huge has transpired over the last week that I've not even shared with my family or my daughter. Like, it's something that I'm just kind of holding close until it's the right time to talk about it, and it makes more sense. But it's like, why do I ever doubt? Why do we ever doubt? It's even those times where I'm in physical pain, or it feels hard, or life's difficult. It's always led me down where I'm supposed to be going. And I just have a huge amount of trust now. And it's a really beautiful place to be, to go, okay, this is hurting right now, but I know I'm fine. Actually, I know I'm fine. And whatever is unfolding and transpiring is for my highest good. And that's a nice place to get to, because through the crux of your healing journey, man, it can suck.
Agreed.
Gosh, it's horrible.
If
But you
anyone's
come out the other
listening,
side.
yeah, if anyone's
So good.
listening and done Dark Night of the Soul, which isn't a night, it's many, 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 many nights. You know,
Yes.
we're sending you love and compassion, I tell you.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm at a point now where I see someone suffering and I'm kind of statistically kind of happy for them, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, that really sucks for them right now, but on the other side of this, you're going to be great, you know?
Yeah, I know. Sometimes when I work with my clients, I'm like, I promise you, you're near the top of the hill. Just keep powering through. It'll be okay. And then you'll get to this hill and it'll be like almost a smooth slide down. But, you know, it won't be anywhere near as bad as what we're doing right now. And it's such a powerful image, that hill, because it is. That's what it feels like. You're just slogging up this hill with this massive backpack. And then you get to the top and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Okay, I can see now. You know, this is better. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is hard. Being there are times where I'm like, I just want to go back. I just want to go back to being an ignorant asshole. You know? But it's like, you can't go back. You can't unsee what you've seen. And
No.
you don't want to go back because you see people who are in a state of having not opened Pandora's box yet, and it's not really a nice place to be either. They think they're good, but you can see that they're suffering, and you know, we're going to suffer anyway, so I would rather be put myself in a position where I'm suffering for the sake of getting on the other side feeling a little bit better, you know?
My mentor and I used to joke that we're going to heal as much crap as we can because we don't want to come back and do it again.
Don't send me back.
Exactly. Not again. I don't want to do that lesson again, please.
And how often, like, I don't know for you, Catherine, but how many times I've been just like, I've paid my dues. Like, God, Spirit, like, we're done here. Not another lesson, you know. And God's like, got a good one coming for you, you know.
Tanya, mine was like brutal because mine was like I had a really rapid awakening. It was like in the period of 6 months. I just got hit from every angle, and I was like on the floor in the fetal position, just rocking and crying, and my son's there going, it's okay, and my husband's like, you can get up, and my guides were like, it's okay, you can get up, and then I was like, okay, but this is horrible, and they're like, we know, but it'll be okay. And then the same thing happened. It was that lesson that had to be purged, and then the same thing happened, and I was upset, but I wasn't in the fetal position, and then it happened again, like really quickly, and then by the third time I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, we'll just roll with it. And they're like, you're done now. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Because I was like, I can't do this again. I know. So if anyone's listening to this and can relate, we've all been through it, I promise. And even when you think you're done, round 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. But it gets easier to handle and you don't feel as alone when you go through it, multiple times. And like you said, you're so in tune with your body and you trust that now that you can just move through it. And it's about creating that safe space for yourself too.
And just knowing it's not going to last forever, right? It's like when you're halfway up that hill and you can't see the top and you're like, this is never going to end. It's like when you're in that for yourself, it's almost impossible to see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're in the light and you're like, I could do that again. That was fine. You know.
And that's when it's really good to have your support as well, because your support are outside you and can help you pull you back from that abyss. And you don't feel like you're just on a bungee cord that's not going to bunge back up, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think about, I've been pretty fortunate that I've been able to go through a lot of my really deep healing. Like living at my parents' home, I didn't have to be earning a full-time income, working full-time, as well as caring for my daughter, who was heavily engaged in therapy and things externally, as well as with me. And I'm so glad I've had so much space to just be in the fetal position, like losing my mind. Like there's times where I'm like, man, how do people just go up and go to work?
I had to, Tanya, and then I had to go run a company, and I was like, what? You know,
luckily I didn't have to do that. I had to teach a bit of yoga, and teaching yoga was really good for me. But being in a place of service in that way actually helped shift my funk. But if I had to get up anywhere else instead of the computer or work 40 hours a week, I'd still be in the fetal position.
It's funny.
Sorry for anyone else that has to do that.
Yeah, but I guess it's a lesson for us too, to show how strong we can be and how like courageous we can be, and to get up and keep going. And then, you know, even at the darkest hour, you still know I've got to get up and I've got to keep going, and I know it'll be okay, and that trusting that it'll be okay once you get there. Yeah. And if anyone doesn't feel okay, please talk to somebody. That's a big thing. Please talk to somebody. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it can be such an isolating journey. Like, I did a lot of my healing by myself, and I did all of my healing by myself other than when I was actually reaching out and touching in to get one-on-one support. But it's why I created my monthly breathwork groups, because I wanted to foster a community where people were coming together regularly. And you know, that moment after about 6 or so months of doing that every month, where people were like, oh, hey, I saw you a couple of months ago. Like, how are you going since that last time? Hey, I remember the last time you spoke about this. And then I was like, that's what I wanted for them. And I don't know if any of them ever caught up outside of those experiences. I'd love to think that they did. I don't know, but
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, so good. Yeah, just makes me just hearing the little dialogues and conversations just touching in, and just going, oh my God, you know, when you spoke about being an alcoholic, or what, you know, or when you spoke about when your mum died, or like whatever it was, it's just starting to hear that everyone's suffering in some way, and we're all wanting to create a little bit more freedom, a little bit more lightness and love in our lives. And that was really powerful for me and beneficial for me, and because I didn't have that, and so it felt important to me to create that for others, because I missed it. And I'm glad to hear that you did.
Yeah, I did. I speak to her today, actually. So, you know, and it's just, you know, it's finding like your tribe and those other souls that understand what you're going through too, and you can have these really open conversations and not feel, you know, judged, which hopefully we all aim not to do. But at the same time, you just feel you can take the mask off and you can be completely honest, because they've been through it too. And it's like, you know, okay, you get it. You know, it's not just beating my head or something like that. It's purely someone actually understands what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I feel like there are more and more people doing that now, and, you know, tapping into these deeper healing states. And over the last, I would say, like 2 years that I've been aware of, I'm seeing, like you were talking about, this speed trajectory of people. Like, it's like my journey started like 10 years ago. Before that, but like really 10 years ago, 10 to 15 years. And so I've just had this slow trajectory and burn, and all of a sudden everyone's just caught up and we're all just here together now. And it's just like, whoa, like you did that quickly, you know, holy crap, that's amazing. And like, but really hard. And so it's like collectively it feels like we're all kind of building in together, and the time is warping to catch us all up so that we're all on the same spin top, you know, we're all moving together now, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, or why we're needing all of us to be ready for whatever's to come.
Who knows? But, well, you know, and the thing is, like, people keep going to me like, oh, you know, like time's so quickly, and I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, time's a, you know, a construct, which is like this is a whole different podcast. We could talk about it, but, you know, and it's like, you know, I'm like, well, time's what you make of it. And sometimes, you know, I say to people, just notice, like, if you leave home and you just think, I'd really like to be at work on time, but, you know, I'm really going to be pushing it to get there. And then see what happens. Sometimes magically you'll get there 5 minutes early and go, I don't even know how that happened. I wasn't speeding. There was just as much traffic, but somehow I've reclaimed time, you know. And it goes the other way too. Like you're saying, time is getting faster, but at the same time, things that would take months for you to get over or to shift, all of a sudden are shifting faster. So it feels more extreme, but at the same time, it's over quicker. Personally, I prefer it being over quicker than being dragged out. Even for me, when I get overwhelmed, I would get a sore throat, and then my left sinus would be blocked, and then my right sinus would be blocked, and then I'd go to my lungs, and then it would take me like a week to kind of shift it properly. And now it's max like a day, and I'm like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I've shifted this. I know what's going on now. But it's not just me being aware. It's also this spinning faster that we're talking about. It's just like, okay, it's done. Great, thank you. So
good.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'll take the speed over lingering any day.
Yeah, it's like, for me, the slow burn, it is what it is, but it's like the fatigue that accrues in the longevity of those sort of longer periods. It's like, ooh. Yeah. It's like you can handle it, but it's like this exhaustion on top of it. It's like, it feels like a big weight, And I don't know, something about me that, not that I consciously like it, but it's definitely the way I've taken it. like the punishment.
Oh, you must have signed up for some good ones this life, Tanya.
I'm in for it.
All right. Well, as we round our time up, do you have, if I always ask everyone this, but if you could change one thing or have one healing message for everyone in the world, what would it be?
Just really listen to your body. The body it's a messenger, a really powerful messenger. And we spend a lot of time, pushing away and resisting and being angry at our bodies, whether it be a stubbed toe or a sore chest or, a painful shoulder or a blocked sinus, whatever it might be. It's like this, we get repulsed and really repel against those physical ailments, but actually we want to be turning into them. And when we listen to our body and we create this really loving relationship with it, that's where we start to unpack and unravel and tune into the more subtle layers of who we are as an energy being and a feeling being. And it's like, just got to pay more attention and just be softer. Softer.
Yeah, and give yourself grace, right? Give yourself compassion and grace and love.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tanya. That is truly beautiful, and I tell people this all the time. So thank you for saying it as well, to listen to your body. Appreciate it. So if anyone wants to connect with Tanya, we'll leave her details and things in the show notes. But thank you, everyone, for listening. I truly appreciate it, and lots of love and gratitude. And thank you so much, Tanya, for joining us and sharing everything as well.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.